I've always thought of food as medicine. That's me being Japanese. I was homegrown in Asia. Think that there's something else about if you treat food like medicine, you then have a different POV on it to where you can get results a lot faster if you just stay hyper focused on maybe it being a treatment to your plan, exercising or whatever that else that might look like for you mentally. But from your POV, what do you think? Food being medicine, and then how have people kind of gone away from that as opposed to really trying to make it a thing in their lives?
Yeah, I think that you said that very well. I mean, food is medicine. It makes us, it can make us feel good. And also, we're seeing now that food can also be a drug. It can be something that people are like addicted to that can make
Right.
us not feel so good.
Yeah.
And so I think that you see both sides of the coin there. Getting back there to this idea that food being medicine, that's what I mean. That's the challenge that I feel like
Yeah.
I've maybe kind of like taken up to show to show that. I think in
Yeah.
other cultures it's much easier
Mm.
because it's cultural in a sense. And here our culture is a little bit different. You know, it's not a bad thing. It just we don't look at food that way in certain cultures. You know, they do. Like for instance, I'll go like you know in my culture, African American, growing up here in the South, you know, food and soul food
Yeah.
was a way to show love to one another. And we basically taught the South how to cook, and so a lot of our foods are full in flavor, but they're high
Wow.
in saturated fats
Yeah.
and simple carbs and things like that, because it was much more so focused on showing love to one another because of uh, the just catastrophic circumstances in which you know African Americans were dealing with coming out
Yeah.
of slavery and whatnot. So it was like our only relief is if we can cook you a meal to show some love that made you feel good. Now that
Mm.
over the years hasn't translated very well in terms of health and wellness, but culturally that's where it came from. And so how do we turn that switch?
Mm.
How do we you know make a departure into you know trying this to look at food as medicine, but
Mm.
also knowing that hey, listen, we know how to cook. Big Mama knows how to cook. My auntie can cook.
Come
My
on.
papa, can cook now. Now we know all those things, but we just need to find out. Well, we need to teach each other how to do it much more in calorie conscious ways,
Mm.
because food also make us feel good afterwards, not just that initial bite, but after we eat a full meal.
Mm. And then almost thinking of it as a navigation to balancing your relationship with food even. I wanted to bring that up now with I mean, listen, everybody's relationship with food is so different. Everybody's relationship with fitness is different, which we'll get to in a little bit. The Someone who's struggling with their relationship with food, right? They might eat too much, their portions. Listen, I struggle with portions. I think a lot of us do. It's like, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat two plates. When realistically, you should probably eat one and one should be enough. But do you have any best practices maybe for someone who's wanting to go in a better direction of their relationship with food
Yeah.
and striving for that? This idea that they want to live healthier and happier because of what they're putting in their body.
Yeah, I'm going to answer this question like this. So right now, I took up this task of, all right, Kev, you're going to do this triathlon this year, and I'm not the best swimmer at all. I'm not the best runner, but I
Mm.
can do cycling. But those other two is just like, whoa, my goodness. And one thing that my buddy was teaching me, because he's been in cross country, and so I go out and runs with him, and he says, "Oh, okay. The best thing, Kevin, that you can do is just slow down.
Mm.
Just slow down." And then I was talking to somebody, and they were helping me out with my swimming technique. And he's like, "Yeah, when you're out there, I know it's kind of hard, and you get really tired, panic. But I tell you what, I've done several of these triathlons, and the best thing that you can do, just go slow. Just go
Mm.
slow." And it's so funny that they were telling me this, because that's something that I've told my followers over and over again. But here I am doing this triathlon, feeling super frustrated and defeated,
Yeah.
not taking my own advice that is directly transferable to other areas. So my advice to that person who is trying to change their life and change those like behaviors is
Mm.
just to start slow. Because we have a tendency, again, because we're in this instantaneous culture, hey, I want results on day one. So let me tell you what day one looks like. When you walk into that grocery store and you be like, this is my day, this is my year. And you see all them fresh foods and you start buying stuff at home. They eat this, I'm gonna eat that. You take it home and you may have a bite of it and you're like, oh, this ain't the best. It's
Mm.
terrible, in fact. And then it turns into a science project in your fridge or in your pantry. All this dust is on bags of quinoa because somebody told you to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So don't try to overhaul everything on day one. What I like to do is just start very small. So what's one behavior that you know that you can get better at? If that's, hey, you know what? I drink too many sodas. All right, let's just work on that. Let's just, before we even touch food, let's just work
Mm,
on your soda intake and your water intake. And
mm,
when you do things like that, it's kind of like a video game. Like you'll get momentum and you'll feel good. You're like, oh, okay, well that wasn't so hard. I can go to level 2 now
right.
because I learned this. I can go to level 3, and you get confidence, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you'll look back and you realize, yo, all these different changes that I made gradually,
Right.
I just transformed my entire lifestyle, my behavior, and wasn't realizing it. And the difference is this time it's sustainable because I've
Mm,
sustained it for all these months. I was just making small changes along the way. Whereas when you try to do everything at once, it's going to be a hit or miss, and most
mm.
people miss.